Hi there, my name is Johnny at Man and Machine. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Plan Grid Build app. So this is the app that you have access to if you have Autodesk Build, part of the new ACC platform from Autodesk. And what we're going to be doing is just going as an overview through some of the features that are inside the app. So just to get it open and clicked on, the first thing that you're going to notice is that you have two different areas that you can go to in here. You have access to your plan grid projects, but you also have access to your build projects. So the two are integrated. You can actually get to both. I'm not going to go through anything plan grid. I won't go through any feature parity or differences. It's just going to be purely on the build side. So looking at the list in the build side of things here, we have a list of our projects. Now this list would contain all the projects that I have access to Autodesk Build on the ACC platform. So I've only got 6 projects here that I have access to. And if I was going to site, what I would do here is I would download those projects. So if I wanted to actually access these projects, I actually do have to download them. I'm just going to do this while I talk in this here. So I'm going to sync my London Hospital project. There's a few things that must have been updated since I last used it. And what this is going to mean is that if I've downloaded it, it's on this device and I can access this offline. Everything in here is going to be for me to be able to use without Wi-Fi. And then when I do get Wi-Fi, those changes they're going to be synced back to the cloud. So I'm going to jump into my London Hospital project that I have here. So the first thing you're going to see when you open up your project is the homepage. So this just gives you an idea of things going on in the project. It's really just for you to make decisions on or quickly get to places that you've been to recently. So in the top left here, we've got the issue statuses. We've got overdue issues that I could just jump into, have a quick look at. So if I'm maybe a manager on site, this would be really useful for me to be able to just each week or every day kind of pick up on issues that are kind of ongoing or ones that kind of need a little push or pressure to kind of get them through the door. So that's really useful, just keeping an eye on things. On the top right here, we've got our quick links. So this is where we can actually access sheets that we've looked at recently. We can favorite those sheets. So I've got 2 favorites in here. We can see what we've searched for recently in the sheets, as well as tags that we've searched for recently. And all of these I can quickly use. So if you go on a site, you're using the same drawings each day. This would be really useful just to put them on your favorites up there so you can just get to them really, really quick. And there's some other things there as well, things recently viewed and forms that I am personally assigned to on this project. So that's the home page. The next tab along the bottom here, we have all of our sheets. So this is going to contain all of your construction drawings. So if there's anything on site where you're needing a drawing, it will be, or it should be, in here. This is where all of your drawings for site production should be. And they're all viewable. We can create markups in here. So we have all of our markup tools to the right there. And I can publish these from this app, and people in the office would then be able to pick these up. I can create issues within here as well. I have a really handy little tool here that allows me to actually add a camera pin. And this will allow me to take a quick new photo. So if I just take a picture of my desk here. One of the really cool things I like about this actually is that you have a markup tool in the app. So if you are looking potentially to kind of communicate something back, you don't need to maybe send it to your library inside of your iPhone, Android device. It will be something that you can just mark up within that photo. And you can also actually tag it from here as well. So if this was something, or if we had a standard of tags on site, I could say that maybe this is part of the construction tags, maybe add other tags, and then I can save this out. And that's really going to help me find this later on in the photos area of this app. So yeah, everyone back in the office, once this is loaded up, whoever has access to this will have then access to anything that I put on here. But that's a really handy little tool when you're maybe walking around your project and you just want to maybe take some pictures of snags or something like that. It could be nice workflow there. And we've got lots of different markup tools. We can change the color of the outline of things, the fill of things. So a lot of control in terms of what we want to do. In the top right-hand corner, we also have some really useful tools in here. So first of all, the versions. I think we've only got a couple of versions in here. Sorry, recently viewed. We also have the option just next to that to actually compare versions. So if I had more than, say, one version of this document and I'd gone to site, I was then building from it, and I can see that there's an older version perhaps, or even if I wanted to compare perhaps against the same version that I've got here, this allows me to essentially just see changes within the app. It's a really useful way of being able to kind of quickly pick up on comparing drawings within the app itself. So really useful for someone on site to be able to do that, so they can kind of make sure that they know exactly what it is that might have changed from a copy they were looking at the day before or between another drawing. So that's the sheets area. Like I said, this is an area for you to be able to put all of your drawings, all of your construction drawings. They should all be named correctly. So at the top here, you've got a really nice way of searching for drawings, either by the name. You also have the option then to filter by anything that has a markup on it, anything that has tags. So maybe I'm just looking for plumbing drawings, my plumbing 103 drawing. As long as the tags are against the drawings, I can filter by those things, as well as also sets. So sets are something that when you upload these drawings to the sheets area, maybe from the desktop, someone is going to put them against the set so that you can then search your sets as well. So loads and loads of different ways of finding your drawings once this starts getting busy. So if you've got hundreds, maybe in thousands of drawings, it can be very easy to find the drawings that you're looking at. So that's the sheets area. The next area that we've got here is the files area. So in Autodesk Docs, Autodesk Build, you get a for the field folders area specifically designed for this files area. And this would really be for anything that isn't a drawing. So for instance, we've got installation guides here. We've got some Kingspan installation guides. And this works really nicely. So you can open up these PDFs. Someone on site who's installing this could open these up. And it's quite I'm not having to kind of find the sheets in here. I can just glide across the PDF and maybe find the page I'm looking for to install those items. Other things that I've got in here as well, I could, if I've got maybe models that I need to view, there's a model viewer in here. So if I'm on site, maybe I'm a bit more progressive in terms of how we're installing these, I could use the model to kind of help me with a bit of context around what's going up. So you can view the models online as well. So really an area that you would put anything that's perhaps not a drawing, something that needs some context to site, specs, maybe if there's some drawings that aren't perhaps related or that don't need to go into the sheets area, you could put them in here. So that's the files area. The next tab along the bottom here we've got is forms. So this area is where if you're going to site, maybe you're doing a quality inspection or a safety inspection, this is where you would start that form from. So I've got a few forms here that we can use. I've got some safety inspections you can see down at the bottom here: site organization, fire safety action plan. So if you imagine maybe I'm someone who's going to site and doing some of these safety inspections, if I start my site organization checklist, we can see what that looks like. So the first thing that happens in here is it's going to take you to that specific forms area and show me all the forms that have been created under GC01 site organization checklists. So we've already got some that we've done here, and if this list was longer, you've got ways of showing things that are archived and filtering based on those. But if I wanted to start a new one, in the top right hand corner I've got a little plus symbol. I can just hit that plus, and if you imagine I'm on site now, I can then start doing this checklist. So this is actually a smart PDF version of a checklist. So this is one way that you can create checklists in Autodesk Build. The beauty of this really is that if you have had inspection or whatever checklist you've maybe going to site and doing on paper, you can take that paper format, put it into a PDF format, and you can use the same format again. So if somebody's been going to site for 20 years, they've been using the same format piece of paper, they don't maybe they don't want, not that they don't want to change, but maybe it might be quite a big change, maybe to change the format entirely for them. They can actually stick with what they've been used to, and then they can just fill in the form, but in a digital format. And really useful things that you can do in here as well is that with this Smart PDF, you can actually get it to fill in little bits of information which are already in the project, which take away that kind of human error. So things like the company name, the project title. You can actually get location to fill in as well, but I haven't done in this case, I think maybe because there isn't a location against this project. And if I was the one going to site, I would then fill this in. And Cool thing about this as well, I can't accidentally click on 2 of these checklists, so really useful and key kind of for being able to get this information out later or review it later so that it's all correct. So I'd fill all of this in, and then at the bottom here there's some more information that's pulled from the project, so it's pulling my name and also my position based on my user account in Autodesk Build, and then I can sign this off when it's all done. So I can save that form out, and then underneath here as well, I've got tons of stuff that I can actually link to this form if I want to. So I could create a photo and attach it to this form. We've already had a quick look at how the photos work, but I could mark up in there as well. The files, so I can attach the installation guides if that was important to this form. Issues, if there are any issues that relate to this, I could either add them or I could actually create an issue from here. That's going to allow me to communicate something specific to somebody in the project. I can actually attach another form to this form. So I had GCO2 up in this project as well. So if that next form is going to be related to this one and there's a specific reason they would need to be linked, you can actually link those 2 forms together. And I can also actually link to specific assets in the project. And I'll go through the assets in a bit more detail in a second. So once I finish this, I would hit submit. And so I've attached all the information. And that's then going to be available to report back in the office. Someone would be able to review that. But now it's in my list in my GCO on-site organization. So that's a little bit about forms. Really nice to use. There are other ways of creating forms. So if you, as well as that smart PDF, you can create quite a rigid format as well. So there are different options in there. I'm not going to go into both in this demo. So the next tab we've got along the bottom is the issues. So you can create issues against drawings, but what they're really key for is containing information that's going to be useful for someone to make decisions or change things based on. So maybe if you're looking at things on site, you can create issues, maybe that are observations. You've observed something that maybe might be a safety issue, or perhaps there's some snagging on site. You could have a workflow where you use issues to communicate that back to the office, or just to keep a record of it. And these have workflows within them as well. So if you were, say, coming up with a snag, you could then assign that to somebody. They would then perhaps have to go and fix it. Then they would answer that issue in review, and then you would review what they've done and then close the issue out. So there's a whole workflow that you can create with these issues. And you can actually customize these to the nth degree as well. And all of this information is reportable, it's searchable. So really, say in 5 years' time after the project's finished and maybe something's come up, if you need to go back and it's within these issues, it's very easy to find things as long as all the metadata is there against them. So that's issues. We also have access to see who's in the project as well. This might be useful if you just need to know whether someone is going to have access to something, or just to see who's in it. And if I click on the more option at the end here, there is quite a bit extra more. We have RFIs, and I'll go through this list and I'll go back to assets at the end because I think it's quite an important one to cover in a bit of detail. So I'll go down from RFIs. Requests for information, they're very similar to issues, but they have a more kind of standard workflow in that you have people creating the RFIs, then perhaps the manager reviewing it, and then perhaps someone architecturally maybe answering the question, and it can go up and down that chain of people, or all of that information is then captured against the different people that it's going to in that workflow. But there's just more information in it, and these are to a degree customizable. We have more information such as things like cost impact, schedule impact, what priority it might be, whether there's external IDs relating to this RFI. So there's just more information in these RFIs. But again, all searchable. The metadata in there is really, really useful later on in the project to be able to find and to report on. We also have submittals. I'm not going to go into submittals in too much detail. The way it works is you can create items that you can then put into packages. You can then send those for reviews. Very similar to RFIs, there is a specific workflow in here that allows you to get those submittals out and then distribute whatever information is within them to the wider team. So we also have photos. So there's going to be some photos in here that I've already created. This one here actually created against a drawing. So what's really useful about some of the way that this photos works is that it actually gives me a lot of information about where this photo was actually taken, what it's actually attached to, so I can go to the drawing that I attached it to. just loads and loads of different ways of kind of getting around and following the threads of information from photos. And that's kind of a common theme with this app and Autodesk Build in general, is that the thread of information is all there, attaching all that information to checklists. If I find that piece of information in isolation, it will take me to that checklist. If then that checklist is attached to something else, I can follow that. So a really, really good way of following all of the information in the project to everything that it's spiderwebbed to. So this will include all the photos on the project. This is really useful if you're looking for stuff on a project. You've gone to site with your iPhone 2 weeks ago and created a ton of photos, and you want to be able to find that stuff. There is tons of different ways to organize this, but you can search by when it was taken, when it was added, the type of photo, whether it was a video or a photo. 360 photos actually work in here. GIFs work in here, I found recently, interestingly. But searching based on tags, so you can tag all your photos. If it was snag photos, you could put that in there. Tons and tons of different ways of searching for photos. Very, very conscientious this app is of the way photos are used on a project, and also what happens to them typically, just sitting in a folder with the iPhone name and not really knowing why it's there. Inside of here, there's so many different ways to find the photos from the project and then follow the information of the things they're actually attached to as well. So if they're in a checklist, you go to that checklist. If they're in an issue, you can go to that issue. Really, really useful tool, that photos. The last tool that we have before I do assets is the meetings. Really useful if you're taking meeting minutes or setting agendas, inviting people to those minutes. So this meeting I have here, there's a few meeting discussion points or items underneath. You can add lots and lots of information into these, and you can actually assign these specific items to people. You can flag them, you can set them to open or closed. With these meetings, you can also set follow-up meetings. So if not everything got sorted in that site, PPE meeting in here, and we have an issue with those hard hats not fitting, we can set a follow-up meeting, and then we can again kind of look at that issue and then close it out. In this case, it has been closed. We've got the ongoing, the boots requiring heel support due to a slope on site. But really a good way for maybe something comes up in a couple of weeks' time to look back on this information and have it all in that one place. And this, again, these could link to other parts of your project. If there's an issue where someone took a photo of the boots on site that didn't have that heel support, then all of that we could find quite easily from here if we've linked it all together. So the last thing we're going to look at is assets. I really, really like the way assets work inside of Autodesk Build in general. What they allow you to do is to create your own list of assets, and assets can be a bit of a subjective term, I think, probably in Autodesk Build. We're looking at the top most of my assets here as actual physical assets, so primary water pump, an air-cooled chiller, and things like that, air handling units. And those could be the things that you might want to keep an eye on. Maybe they've got specific checklists, specific issues that relate to those specific assets. This would be a really useful tool to keep an eye on those things. But you could also use it for spaces or rooms or zones on your project. So if your checklists relate to a specific room, you could organize your assets based on the room and then have all the information pumped into those, what technically would be an asset to you on that project. If I take this VAV995 primary water pump as an example, just at the top, what you get with the assets is, first of all, any parameters that relate to that asset, and these are customizable. You can add whatever you want to these. I will explain barcode in a second, but we've got the status, which is an important part of this. Has it been installed? Has it been accepted? These are the ones out of the box that you can get, but you can actually customize that as well as much as you want. There you can create as many status sets as you want. So everything you might want in terms of information you can add in here. What then you can also do is you can actually add references. Now, the reason I really like this is because if you are going to site and you have got assets and you've created this asset list, you can just start a form directly from the asset and it'll add it into this asset. You can start an issue directly from this asset and it'll put it into here. And so all the information, if this asset is going to be something that's going to be part of my facility management, if all the information is within these locations, then it's going to make that handover a lot easier when it comes to actually making sure all the information is in one place in a nice, easy way to then actually kind of, maybe a stage handover. Just everything is in one place. that's the real beauty of this. And you can export these in the desktop app to things like Excel, so you can get all this information out as well. So a really useful tool for organizing information again. The barcode option we've got in the bottom left there, what you can actually do with these assets. If I go to details here, I've got the barcode just in here. And if I was on site and maybe trying to find the asset, what I could do or what someone could have done right from the beginning is put these QR codes that relate to the asset number that we have against that asset. And if I then scan this using that scan barcode, it would just take me directly to the asset and I could then just start the checklist up, let's say straight from there. So really, really quick workflow if that's a possibility on the sites that you're working on. So that's assets, and that pretty much comes to the end of the Build app demonstration. It's a really, really useful app, a really nice interface and easy to use. If there are any questions, or if you'd like to see a demo yourself of this app or of Autodesk Build, or if you have any questions about anything that you've seen in here, then please do get in touch with us here at Man and Machine. Thanks very much for listening. Bye.